This is a short overview of the provider equation solution designed exclusively for healthcare providers by an experienced team of healthcare marketing executives. Most health systems have invested heavily in digital marketing, and addressing the connectivity and the optimization of that first mile of the patient journey, as well as bridging the last mile, is really essential to complete the transformation of healthcare to a retail business model. So, some key initiatives for healthcare systems that we find typically are that they want to create operational efficiencies in areas like branding, rebranding, and cleaning up their location data across all locations, especially the consumer facing locations, management and reporting across those same consumer facing locations. A special focus on reputation and review management, making sure that each consumer facing location is producing five-star reviews and just really doing as best as they can in maintaining a four-star rating or higher. Certainly maintaining the consistency of location data across each of these locations. And then, of course, the ultimate outcome is maximizing visibility opportunities in search for all access points to drive more traffic, more phone calls, more website visits, more direct footfall traffic. So that's really some of the basic key initiatives that we see across most healthcare systems today. Really important to understand is that in terms of industries or niches most reliant on search for driving traffic, health and medical is number one as the number one industry or niche most reliant on Google. So it's incredibly important that health systems and healthcare providers really pay attention to their reliance on Google, understanding that the data says that the consumer is really using search to find their healthcare providers. And so it's really optimal for healthcare providers to be paying attention to their online web presence for each of their consumer facing locations. And that's what Provider Equation was created for. If we look at just some of the underlying data, Google drives 8 times more traffic than all other social media networks combined, and its search is really the single largest traffic source. And if we look at this from a pie chart standpoint or as a visual, Google owns over 90% of all search. So, health and medical are most reliant on Google search or on search for driving traffic to their consumer facing locations. Google owns over 90% of that search market share. And so, orienting a healthcare system's consumer facing locations towards Google and optimizing in Google search is going to be or pay the biggest dividends and have the greatest ROI in terms of or consumer acquisition and in terms of capturing market share in the markets that you're competing in. So the question then becomes, how does a healthcare system actually optimize their consumer facing locations for Google search? And it really comes down to an ongoing solution of producing signals around each location. So each healthcare location, whether it's a primary care location or it's an urgent care location or it's a radiology location or a lab, each of them is considered a separate entity with Google, and therefore each of those locations has to produce signals around its location, its website, its Google My Business listing, its health grades listing, and what have you, each and every month. Really, it's not just a one-time process of generating signals, but really an ongoing process of that location having signals being generated around it so that those signals can be found by the robots that Google employs and other search engines employ as well. We call it Googlebot, but each search engine has robots or bots that crawl the web and are finding, qualifying, quantitating these signals. And as these signals are generated, the more signals you generate as compared to competitors, the better you'll do. The more authoritative the signals that are generated are, the better that you'll do. And the more authority that your location has, the better you're going to do in search. And so building authority around each location is a process that's ongoing of generating signals around each of these locations. And as you can see here from this pie chart, there are categories of signals. There are Google My Business signals, there are link signals, there are review signals, there are on-page signals. On-page signals means the signals that are on actual web pages, primarily the healthcare system's website, but there are usually typically provider location pages on those websites. And those web pages or websites should have good signals on them. Citation signals are really the signals around the business name, address, and phone number. We call it the NAP for short, but consistency in the business name, address, phone number, or that location's name, address, and phone number should always be consistent. We see a fair amount of inconsistency, especially as an enterprise gets larger and larger, has more and more locations. You can start to see mild to maybe even severe inconsistencies in their business or location name, address, and phone number as we get into doing an audit of each location. So, behavioral signals, social signals, these are all parts of um, creating signals around that entity or that location. And the more signals and the more authoritative they are, the better a location is going to do in search. And so, translating this into an actual deliverable solution, what we have found is that most healthcare systems have usually one, maybe two different software providers that they've engaged with to help them manage maybe their reputation and reviews, or maybe directory listings. But oftentimes, it's just simply a software contract. And a software alone will never solve this problem. Software has proven to not solve this problem, to help a provider actually get their locations doing better and better in search over time. So we combine both a very unique and unified software platform along with a human element of to manage the solution, manage the software, and actually work alongside in collaboration with our healthcare provider as a partner. So it's both. This is both software technology and a human element of our team being experts in how to generate these signals on an ongoing basis around one to many locations on a monthly basis. And so, well, the first thing that we do is we kind of get the health. We take the vital signs of the a healthcare provider's location, and we can really kind of quantify how are we doing in these major components of signals. How are we doing in our reviews, our listings and citations, our social media, and our web page or on-page signals. And then once we kind of have those initial vital signs and we have a baseline, now we can begin to improve the health of that location. And we do that through generating signals in these different categories on a regular basis. And so we have these what we call web presence reports or snapshot reports that we take around the location, and we will do this around each location that is entered into the provider equation solution. We get the initial vital signs report or web presence report around each location, and now we know where the weak areas are, where the areas of strength are, and so we can begin to address those location by location, month after month. And so once we have these reports, then we basically also have each location entered into our software platform, and the software platform can add we can add dozens to hundreds to thousands of locations into the software platform. As you can see here, we have a demo platform set up for Advent Health and Adventist Health. And so I'm in the Adventist Health Adventist Health Clear Lake location right now. We have our reputation or review signals software. We have our directory listing and citation software. We have our social signals software. And then we also wrap up some really nice reporting features to be able to make sure we get weekly and monthly executive reports that are produced once we have the software completely set up. Right now, this is as a demo. We don't actually have the software connected to any of the accounts yet, but that's kind of what makes these accounts all come alive as we start feeding it with data from Google My Business, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Google Analytics. Once we have all those different accounts connected for each individual location, then this all comes alive, both with reporting in terms of just an initial dashboard or marketing funnel, and then a monthly and weekly executive report. We put out the executive report every week and then once a month for every single location. And then we also have a brand level report. So if we go over to the brand, I'll go to the Adventist Health brand because it's got 2 locations. That's the one we're in. But if we have, whether we have 2 locations or we have 12 or we have 1,200, once all those locations are connected and data is being fed into them through those connections, we then also have a multi-location or brand enterprise level reporting center as well. And in the multi-location reporting center, it aggregates and rolls up the data across all of the locations into a enterprise level report. This executive report comes out monthly and weekly as well for the entire enterprise. So we can get a bird's eye view of how we're doing at the location level and at the enterprise level, all in one report. Again, we don't have any data coming into this right now because these are just demo accounts. But once we connect to Google and Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, what have you, all this data starts to populate in here, and we can get real live information in terms of how are these individual locations actually doing online, how are they doing in searches and views, phone calls, or actions. And then we can begin to make decisions and prioritizing which locations need the most and urgent attention in terms of resolving issues, turning things around, and what have you. So that is the technology component of our solution. It's enterprise class. As you can see here, we can literally connect in hundreds to thousands of locations. We can actually private label this entire software instead of having our provider equation brand on it. What's also unique is we can actually just brand this software platform directly to your healthcare provider brand, your health system brand, if that's a desire. It's something that's kind of unique as well to the provider equation solution. That is that it's our software, so we can actually brand it to your brand if that's something that you would prefer. But either way, we've got a technology solution that both your staff as a healthcare provider and our staff will collaboratively work in together to address the need for producing signals around each of these consumer-facing locations, and then having the reporting and the data intelligence to be able to figure out which locations are the priorities and which ones really need the most attention. So that brings me to this portion of the slide here, is that we do have with our human element, because it's not just software that's just plugged in and left to just run. We actually are monitoring this. We are able to identify underperforming locations. We're able to collaboratively work with the provider marketing staff to identify preferential ambulatory locations or locations with brand identity issues, and then apply targeted resolution and optimization strategies so that we're addressing the either the greatest needs or the areas of focus. And that obviously always takes a human element and a team to work together to effectuate that. Our goal is to improve the web presence KPIs of our targeted locations. Obviously, all locations under management, that's our goal. But then we put extra focus on the targeted locations that we want to improve performance on, and then we're able to actually measure those improvements with the reporting I just showed. So our strategies really are to develop and really connect the first and the last mile in terms of connectivity and optimization. And when we mean connectivity, we mean connecting that location to the consumers in that hyperlocal environment via Google search. Google search is what's driving the majority of the traffic, whether it's phone calls, foot traffic, website visits. Google search is the dominant player. We want to help that consumer-facing healthcare provider location connect with its consumers or the entire market through a hyperlocal optimization strategy. It is an omni-channel web presence and signal generation solution. That's what drives better search rankings. And this is a managed solution, not a software-only type of relationship with, as we demonstrate here, the ability to do multi-location enterprise reporting and at the same time have that hyperlocal or individualized location performance grading report as well. I hope this quick overview just helps you understand a little bit more about the provider equation solution. We look forward to answering any further questions. And of course, we look forward to working together to help your healthcare provider locations do better in search and drive more patient or consumer facing traffic to those locations. Thank you for your time and your attention.